It was just another boring Tuesday in the Galactic Council chambers. Well, boring by galactic standards anyway. The room itself was something out of a dream. Floating platforms suspended in zero gravity, soft light pulsing from the walls like a slow heartbeat, and delegates from 17 different species all trying to agree on how to split up mining rights near a dead star. Nothing too dramatic. Nothing that would make the history books. Then the human delegate stood up. No warning. No raised hand. No polite, "I'd like to add something." Just stood right in the middle of a debate about asteroid quotas and turned off their translator. The soft hum that usually turned alien speech into something understandable for humans and vice versa just clicked off. Silence followed, thick and sudden, like someone had pulled a blanket over the whole room. Everyone froze. Not because humans were rare, they'd been part of the council for over 100 years, but because humans were loud. They argued. They asked too many questions. They cried during diplomatic briefings once, which still confuse the crystalline Vellum delegation to this day. But silence? That wasn't human, not at all. The delegate walked to the center of the obsidian table, the ancient, unbreakable slab that had hosted peace talks since before Earth even had radio, and placed their council insignia down. It was a small thing, really. A silver disc etched with Earth's continents and the words "One planet, one voice." They didn't say a word. Didn't look around. Just turned and walked out, boots clicking against the gravity-plated floor like a countdown. And then, one by one, every other human in the room did the same. Scientists, security officers, junior aides, they all stood, turned off their translators, and followed. No glances back, no dramatic pauses, just gone. At first, the other delegates thought it was a protest. Maybe Earth was upset about the mining vote. Maybe they wanted more representation. That kind of thing happened. The mycelians once walked out for 3 whole cycles because someone used a non-recyclable data chip. So the council waited. They assumed the humans would send a message, request a private session, or at least complain over subspace comms like normal. But nothing came. Not an hour later, Earth's embassy on Proxima Centauri went dark. Lights off, comms down. Security drones powered off mid-patrol. Then came reports from human colonies near Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, even the remote outposts near Barnard's Star. All silent. No broadcasts. No cargo ships leaving port. No greetings, no updates, no everything's fine. Just radio silence across the entire human sphere. That's when the real worry started. Because in a galaxy where information flowed faster than light, silence wasn't just rude, it was terrifying. It meant something had gone very, very wrong. Or very, very right, and the council hated not knowing which. Back on Earth, things looked normal. Cities still glowed at night. Trains still ran. Kids still argued about whether space whales were real. They weren't, but the debate raged on. But if you looked closer, if you checked the deep space monitoring stations or the orbital defense grids, you'd see something different. Every human ship within 10 light years had been recalled. Every research station was locked down, and around the entire solar system, a strange energy field had begun to form, humming just below detectable frequencies. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a shield exactly. It was more like a curtain, drawn shut. The humans hadn't left because they were angry. They'd left because they were done waiting. For decades, they'd tried to warn the council about something strange happening at the edge of known space. Tiny ripples in spacetime, stars flickering out a fraction too early, gravity behaving oddly near certain nebulae. Human scientists called it the decay wave, a slow, creeping unraveling of the universe's fabric, moving inward like a bruise spreading through fruit. At first it was just theory. Then it was data. Then it was undeniable. But the council? They called it statistical noise, said the models were flawed, said humans were overreacting as usual. After all, the galaxy had been stable for millions of years. Why panic over a few odd readings? But humans had always been the kind to prepare for storms no one else could see. While others debated protocol and precedent, they built. They tested. They ran simulations until their servers melted. And when they realized the council wouldn't act, not in time, they made a choice. Stop asking for permission. So they walked out. Not in anger, but in focus. They shut the door so they could work without being interrupted by endless meetings about asteroid dust. Of course, none of this was known to the council yet. All they saw was an entire species vanish from galactic affairs overnight. No warning, no explanation, just empty chairs and a growing sense of dread. The Cathari, ancient and calm as mountain stone, were the first to suggest sending a probe. The Zorath, always ready for war, demanded a fleet be mobilized just in case. The Veln, who saw the universe in quantum probabilities, quietly ran calculations that made their bioluminescent skin dim with fear. Something was happening, and for the first time in centuries, the humans weren't there to explain it. Back on Earth, in a hidden lab beneath the ice of Antarctica, a team of engineers powered up the first prototype of what they hoped would be humanity's answer to the decay wave. It looked like a giant tuning fork made of sunlight and starlight, humming with energy pulled straight from the sun. They didn't know if it would work, but they knew they had to try alone, if no one else would listen. And so while the galaxy held its breath, wondering if humanity had abandoned them or was preparing to destroy them, the people of Earth did what they'd always done best. They got to work, quietly, determinedly, without fanfare. Because sometimes, the loudest statement isn't a speech or a threat, it's simply walking away. So you can save everyone without having to argue about it first. 3 days after the humans walked out, the silence wasn't just strange, it was starting to feel dangerous. At first, the Galactic Council tried to act like nothing was wrong. Meetings went on. Debates about trade routes and energy quotas continued. But everyone kept glancing at the empty human seats. The air felt heavier, like a storm was building just out of sight. And then the reports started pouring in, not from Earth, but from the edges of human-controlled space. Colony stations that used to send daily check-ins. Silent freight haulers that ran regular routes between star systems, nowhere to be found. Even the tiny research outposts on icy moons, places that barely had power for heat, had gone completely dark. No distress signals. No signs of attack. No wreckage, just nothing. That's what scared everyone the most. In space, silence usually meant death. But this silence felt different. Too clean, too complete. Like someone had flipped a switch and turned off an entire civilization. The council called an emergency session, something they hadn't done in over 200 years. Delegates rushed in from across the galaxy, their ships docking in a chaotic dance outside the Proxima Centauri Concordia. Inside the chamber, the usual calm was gone. Voices rose. Tentacles waved. Light-based beings pulsed with anxiety. Everyone wanted answers, but no one had any. The Cathari, one of the oldest species in the council, finally spoke. Their voice was slow, like stones grinding together. This is not panic. This is precision. Humans do not vanish without reason. But the Zorath weren't convinced. Warriors by nature, they saw only threat. What if they're building something? One of them boomed, armor clanking. What if they left so they could strike without warning? That idea spread fast. Fear always travels quicker than facts. Soon, rumors flew through the corridors. Humans had developed a new weapon, a virus that could rewrite alien DNA, a black hole generator hidden in the asteroid belt. None of it made sense, but in the absence of truth, imagination filled the gap. The Veln, who understood the universe through math and quantum patterns, tried to calm things down. They'd been scanning human space nonstop since the walkout, but every time they aimed their sensors at the Sol system, Earth's home, they hit a wall. Not a physical one, something stranger. A field of distorted energy that bent light, scrambled signals, and made even their most advanced tech useless. It wasn't a shield meant to block weapons. It was designed to block observation. Like Earth didn't just want to be left alone. They wanted to become invisible. That's when the council realized this wasn't a protest. This was a lockdown, and that raised a terrifying question. What are they hiding from us? Or protecting us from? Panic began to spread beyond the chamber. Trade ships rerouted to avoid human sectors. Families on border worlds packed emergency kits just in case. Even species that rarely interacted with humans started watching the skies, wondering if something was coming. Back on Earth, none of this mattered. The people there weren't thinking about galactic politics or alien fears. They were too busy working. In underground labs on orbital platforms, even in repurposed subway tunnels, teams of scientists, engineers, and volunteers raced against a clock only they could hear. They knew about the decay wave, the slow unraveling of space-time creeping toward the galaxy's heart. They'd seen the data. They'd run the models. And they knew if nothing was done, entire star systems would blink out of existence within a decade. The Council had called it noise. Humans called it a death sentence. So while the galaxy whispered about betrayal and war, Earth was building a lifeline, a network of devices, powered by solar energy, tuned to the frequency of cosmic stability, that might just hold the universe together long enough to find a permanent fix. But it needed time, and time meant silence. No distractions, no debates, no waiting for 17 species to agree on whether the sky was falling. Meanwhile, the Council's fear turned into action. They activated Emergency Protocol Theta 9, the highest alert in their history. It hadn't been used since the Great Collision Wars thousands of years ago. The protocol didn't call for attack, not yet, but it did authorize full surveillance, military readiness, and something called preemptive containment. No one was sure what that meant. But the fact that it existed at all sent chills through the diplomatic corps. A small scout ship, the Whisper Wing, piloted by a nervous young Veln, was sent toward the edge of human space. Its mission: get close enough to see what was really happening. Not to provoke, just to look. It never made it past the orbit of Mars. One moment it was transmitting clear images of the inner solar system, Earth glowing blue, the moon quiet and still. The next its signal dissolved into static. Not destroyed, not jammed, just gone, as if the ship had slipped behind a curtain no one else could see. When the Whisper Wing didn't check in, the Council held its breath. Hours passed, then a single data packet arrived. Corrupted, fragmented, but intact enough to show one thing. The scout had detected massive energy signatures around Earth. Not weapons, not engines. Something harmonic, like the whole planet was humming a single low note that resonated through space itself. That's when the mycelians, the gentle plant-like diplomats who rarely spoke, finally broke their silence. They are not hiding, they said, their voices like rustling leaves. They are healing, but not everyone believed them. The Zorath began moving warships toward the outer rim of human territory, just in case. The Cathari urged caution. The Veln ran more simulations, their faces pale with dread, because their latest models showed something new. The decay wave wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating, and if Earth was really trying to stop it, then maybe, just maybe, the humans hadn't abandoned the galaxy. Maybe they were trying to save it, but no one knew for sure. And in the dark between the stars, uncertainty grew like a shadow. The Council had spent centuries believing they were in control. That order, rules, and endless meetings kept the galaxy safe. Now for the first time they realized something uncomfortable. Sometimes, the people who walk away are the only ones brave enough to fix what's broken. And while they argued, Earth worked. Quietly, urgently, without fanfare, building not a weapon but a hope. Wrapped in silence, hidden behind a curtain of light and will, waiting for the moment the galaxy would finally understand. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop talking and start doing. Weeks passed. The silence from Earth didn't break. But space, as it always does, eventually gives up its secrets, even the ones hidden behind walls of energy and quiet. It started with a ghost ship, drifting near the frozen edge of the solar system, past Neptune and into the scattered rocks of the Kuiper Belt. A small freighter floated without power. No lights, no engine hum, just a cold, dark shell tumbling slowly through the void. It was human-made, old even by Earth standards. The Odyssey's Echo, a cargo hauler that had been retired years ago, retrofitted for deep space research. No one knew why it was out there, or why it had stopped. A Veln patrol, still on high alert but under strict orders not to cross into human space, spotted it during a routine sweep. At first they thought it might be a trap, but the ship gave off no energy, no signals, not even heat. It was as dead as a rock. Still, curiosity won out over caution. They sent a remote drone to dock and check the logs. What they found changed everything. Inside the ship's core computer, untouched by time or sabotage, was a final transmission, recorded just hours before all human comms went dark. The video was grainy, the lighting dim, but the voice was calm. Tired but steady. It wasn't a message meant for the galaxy. It was a log, a personal record. And in it the truth spilled out like water from a cracked dam. The speaker, a scientist judging by the worn lab coat and the tired eyes, explained it all. Not with anger, not with blame, just facts laid out like pieces of a puzzle no one else had been willing to see. There's a wave, they said, voice low. Not of matter or radiation, but of unraveling. Space-time itself is fraying at the edges. We first noticed it near the Perseus arm. Stars winking out too fast, gravity wells collapsing without cause. At first, we thought our instruments were faulty. Then we compared data with observatories on Mars, Titan, even the far-side lunar array. Same pattern, same decay. They paused, rubbed their eyes, then continued. We brought it to the council 3 times. Each time they said it was noise. Statistical error.
Give it another century, they told us.
But we ran the models, over and over, and the math doesn't lie. In less than 10 years, the wave hits the inner galaxy. Billions of lives, entire civilizations, gone not with a bang but with a whisper, like the universe forgot they existed. Then came the real reason for the silence. We asked for help, for resources, for just one joint research initiative. They voted it down, said it would disrupt interstellar trade, so we made a choice. If they won't act, we will. Alone, if we have to. We're shutting down all non-essential systems, redirecting every watt of power, every mind, every hour to one goal. Stop the wave before it's too late. The log ended with a simple line. We're not leaving you. We're buying you time. The Veln didn't speak for a long time after watching it. Then, without a word, they copied the data, encrypted it, and sent it straight to the Council's highest chamber, bypassing protocol, bypassing politics. This wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was survival. When the other species saw the footage, the room fell so quiet you could hear the hum of the life support systems. The Zorath, who had been sharpening their war plans, sat stunned. The Cathari closed their ancient eyes as if in shame. Even the Mycelians, usually so composed, trembled slightly in their root-like seats because now they understood. The humans hadn't vanished out of spite. They hadn't gone dark to build weapons. They'd gone quiet to work. While the galaxy debated asteroid quotas, Earth was building a shield for the stars. But the most chilling part? The log mentioned something called the Helios Array, a network of solar-powered resonators designed to emit a counter-frequency, stabilizing space-time like tuning a broken instrument. The problem? It couldn't be built in one place. It needed nodes across 5 different star systems, including 3 that belonged to council members. And Earth couldn't activate it alone. That's when the real panic hit. Not the kind born of fear, but of guilt. The galaxy had ignored the warning, mocked the messengers, and now, the only people trying to fix the problem had been forced to go silent just to get anything done. Back on Earth, no one knew their secret was out. Life continued under the energy-dampening field that wrapped the solar system like a cocoon. In hidden labs, engineers tested prototype resonators, each one glowing with captured sunlight. On the moon, teams assembled massive reflector dishes that would channel solar energy into precise harmonic beams. In orbit, AI systems ran millions of simulations per second, fine-tuning the exact frequency needed to stitch space-time back together. It wasn't flashy. There were no speeches, no banners, no heroic music playing in the background. Just people, ordinary people doing extraordinary work because someone had to. Because if they didn't, no one would. Meanwhile, the council scrambled. Emergency meetings turned into all-night sessions. Old rivalries were set aside. Even the Zorath, once ready to invade, now asked, "What can we send? Materials? Engineers? Power cores?" For the first time in centuries, the galaxy wasn't thinking about rules or rank. They were thinking about helping. But there was a problem. Earth wasn't answering. No matter how many signals they sent, pleas, offers, apologies, the human comms stayed dark. The energy field around the solar system remained active. It wasn't a rejection. It was a boundary. A line that said, "We're busy saving everything. Don't distract us." So the council did the only thing they could. They prepared. They gathered the materials Earth would need. They cleared space in their shipyards. They trained their best scientists in human-compatible tech. And they waited. Because now they knew the truth. Humanity hadn't walked out on the galaxy. They'd walked out for it. And somewhere, deep in the silence of their own solar system, humans were building not just a machine but a second chance, one pulse of light at a time. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out, and the galaxy was holding its breath. The silence from Earth hadn't broken, not really, but something had shifted. The fear was still there, sure, but now it was mixed with something new. Hope. And guilt. Mostly guilt. The Council had spent weeks preparing. They'd gathered rare crystals from the mycelium forests, superconducting alloys from the Zorath forges, and quantum stabilizers from the Veln labs. All the pieces Earth might need for whatever they were building. They'd even cleared entire orbital docks ready to receive human engineers the moment contact was re-established. But Earth stayed quiet. No signals. No messages. Just that strange humming energy field wrapped around the solar system like a protective shell. Then, one ordinary morning, or what passed for morning near Proxima Centauri, a single pulse of data arrived. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't hidden. It came through every channel at once, radio, subspace, even old-fashioned laser comms. As if Earth wanted to make sure everyone heard it, the message was short, no words. Just coordinates, schematics, and a countdown. At first, no one understood. The coordinates pointed to 5 locations across the galaxy. 3 inside Council space, 1 near a neutral zone, and 1 deep in human territory. The schematics showed a strange structure, tall, slender, shaped like a tuning fork fused with a solar sail. And the countdown? Exactly 72 hours. It was the Veln who figured it out first. "It's the Helios Array," they whispered, their bioluminescent skin flickering with awe. "They're ready." Panic flared again, but this time it was different. Not panic of fear, but panic of urgency. The humans weren't asking for permission. They weren't even asking for help. They were telling the galaxy what to do, and if the Council didn't act fast, the whole thing would fail. The schematic showed that each node of the array needed to be built and activated at the exact same moment. Not close, not within a few minutes. Exactly. A fraction of a second off and the harmonic resonance would collapse, maybe even make the decay wave worse. And 3 of those nodes? They were on worlds the Council controlled. That meant the galaxy had to move. Now. What followed was chaos, but the good kind. The kind that happens when everyone finally agrees on what matters. The Zorath, once ready to wage war on Earth, sent their fastest construction drones to the nearest coordinate. The mycelians grew biostructures overnight to house the delicate energy cores. The Cathari used their ancient knowledge of celestial mechanics to align the platforms with perfect precision. Even species that had never spoken to humans before pitched in, sending engineers, raw materials, anything they could spare. Back on Earth, no one celebrated. They didn't even know if the galaxy had received the message. All they knew was that their own node, anchored in lunar orbit, was ready. The final tests had passed. The sun's energy was flowing through miles of superconducting filaments, waiting to be released in one pure, focused tone. All they needed was confirmation that the other 4 were in place. But Earth still didn't speak. They just waited. Because trust, once broken, isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with action. And the galaxy was finally acting. As the countdown ticked below 24 hours, tension gripped every world. Families gathered in public squares, watching live feeds from the array sites. Children asked if the stars would stay. Elders remembered old stories about cosmic balance and whispered prayers in languages no one had spoken in centuries. Even the warlike Zorath stood in silence, their armor dimmed in respect. Then, with just 6 hours left, something unexpected happened. From the human node near the moon, a second signal came, not data this time, but sound. A single clear tone, low and steady, like a heartbeat echoing through space. It wasn't loud, but it was there, and it was beautiful. The Veln recognized it immediately. "It's the base frequency," they said, voice trembling. "They're testing the resonance. They're making sure we're listening." And the galaxy was listening. One by one, the other 4 sites began to hum back. Faint at first, then stronger. The mycelian node sang with the voice of living wood. The Zorath platform thrummed with metallic precision. The Cathari station echoed like wind through ancient stone. And the neutral zone node, built by a coalition of minor species who'd never had a seat at the council table, chimed like a bell made of starlight. Earth's tone shifted slightly, adjusting, syncing. It was like 5 instruments tuning before a symphony no one had ever heard. With 1 hour left, everything was ready. Every node powered, every system green, Every species watching, waiting, hoping, and then silence again. Not the scary kind. The kind before something big happens. The kind that comes right before dawn. Inside the hidden control center beneath the Antarctic ice, a team of humans stood before a single red button. No fanfare, no speeches, just a quiet nod between them. They'd spent months working in isolation, doubted by the very beings they were trying to save. Now it was time to see if the galaxy had been worth saving at all. Outside, on the moon, the Helios array glowed brighter, drinking in the sun's light like a flower turning toward warmth. And across the stars, 4 other lights began to shine. When the countdown hit 0, the 5 nodes fired at once. A wave of pure harmonic energy shot outward, not destructive but restorative. It moved faster than light, weaving through space-time like thread through torn fabric. Where it passed, the decay slowed, then stopped, then reversed. Stars that had been flickering steadied. Gravity wells stabilized. The slow unraveling of reality stitched itself back together. It worked. And in that moment, the humans finally spoke again. Not with words, but with an open channel. A simple message appeared on every screen, in every language. You're welcome. Now let's talk. The galaxy didn't cheer, not yet. But for the first time in a long time, it breathed. And somewhere, in a quiet room on Earth, a tired engineer leaned back in their chair, closed their eyes, and smiled. They hadn't just saved the stars. They'd reminded the galaxy what it meant to be part of something bigger. A year had passed since the humans walked out, and the galaxy would never be the same. The old council chambers still stood near Proxima Centauri, but no one used them anymore. The obsidian table where 17 species once argued over mining rights now gathered dust. Instead, a new kind of meeting place had formed, not in one location but everywhere at once. A network, a conversation, a promise. It started with that simple message Earth sent after the Helios array fired. You're welcome. Now let's talk. No blame. No, we told you so, just an open door. And this time the galaxy walked through it. Humans didn't return to their old seat like nothing had happened. They didn't want to. That system, slow, tangled in tradition, built on endless debate, had failed when it mattered most. So instead of rejoining, they offered something new, the pact of autonomous unity. No central authority. No voting on whether a star was dying. Just real-time sharing of critical data, mutual aid in emergencies, and one unbreakable rule. If one species sees a threat to all, they act and the rest listen first, ask questions later. At first, many were skeptical. The Zorath worried it gave too much power to the young and impulsive. The Cathari feared it lacked structure, but then they remembered the silence, the fear. The moment they realized humans had been working alone to save them all, while they wasted time arguing about trade routes, shame turned into resolve, and slowly, species began to sign on. What surprised everyone wasn't the technology or the treaties, it was the people. On Earth, ordinary citizens opened their homes to alien engineers who came to learn how the Helios array worked. Not as guests, but as partners. In classrooms, human kids and mycelian seedlings studied cosmic physics together through shared holograms. On Mars, Zorath warriors helped rebuild solar farms damaged during the lockdown, their heavy hands surprisingly gentle with the fragile panels. The galaxy wasn't just cooperating, it was connecting, and Earth? They stayed quiet in their own way. Not silent, but focused. They kept improving the array, adding new nodes, refining the resonance, but they also shared everything, blueprints, failures, even their mistakes. We don't have all the answers, a human scientist said during the first open broadcast. But we're willing to try and fail, and try again, together. That honesty changed everything. Historians later called it the Great Awakening. Not because of the array, though that saved lives, but because the galaxy finally woke up to a simple truth. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the oldest. It's about being willing to listen, even when the warning comes from the youngest voice in the room. The old council wasn't abolished with anger. It simply faded like an old map replaced by a better one. In its place rose something messier, louder, and far more alive, a web of equals linked not by rules but by trust. Emergency alerts now pinged across species in seconds. Medical breakthroughs on one world were shared before the lab lights even turned off. When a solar flare threatened a Veln colony, 3 different species sent aid before the locals even asked. And humans? They became known not as rebels or hotheads, but as the ones who cared enough to walk away, so they could come back with a lifeline. Back on Earth, life returned to something like normal. Kids played in parks under a sky that felt a little safer. Farmers grew crops under suns that wouldn't flicker out. But in labs in orbit in quiet corners of the world, people still worked. Because the decay wave was stopped, but the universe was still full of unknowns. And now they weren't alone in watching for them. The real change wasn't in policy or power. It was in perspective. Before the walkout, the galaxy saw humans as loud, emotional, too quick to act. After, they saw them as the ones who did act when no one else would. Not for glory, not for control, just because it was right. And that respect went both ways. Humans stopped seeing the galaxy as a slow, frustrating bureaucracy. They saw it as a family, flawed, yes, but willing to change when shown the way. One evening, a year to the day after the walkout, a small ceremony was held, not in a grand chamber, but on a hill outside Geneva. No dignitaries, no speeches, just people. Humans, Veln, Cathari, Mycelians, even a few Zorath standing awkwardly in the grass. They planted a single tree, a hybrid grown from earth soil and mycelian spores, its leaves shimmering faintly in the moonlight. No one said much. They didn't need to. The silence this time wasn't heavy. It was peaceful, full of understanding. Later, as the stars came out, someone pointed up and said, "Look, they're steady again." And they were. Bright, clear, unbroken. The galaxy hadn't just been saved from a cosmic threat. It had been saved from its own complacency. And it all started because one species got tired of waiting for permission to do what was right. Now, when new species reached out from the edges of known space asking to join the network, the first thing they were told wasn't about rules or ranks. It was this: if you see something wrong, say it. If no one listens, act anyway. And never, ever, let pride silence your warning. Because the lesson of the walkout wasn't about defiance. It was about responsibility. About knowing that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step away from the table, so you can build a better one. And as Earth turned beneath the stars that night, safe, connected, and finally heard, the people below didn't celebrate with fireworks or fanfare. They just went home, hugged their loved ones, and slept soundly, knowing the universe was whole again. Not because of one species, but because at last they'd all learned to stand together, even if it took one of them walking out first to show the way.